All right, folks. Episode 48, as I said earlier. Omar, how you doing, buddy?
Pretty good, dude. Pretty good.
All right. We're
Feeling a little bit out of control, though. Like,
what?
my emotions are all wonky, man. I need help.
You need
So there was only somebody out there that can help me.
as I speak, I'm shining this bright bat sign outside through the window. And lo and behold, Mike Davis answered the call. How you doing there, Mike Davis?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good, man. I'm doing okay, but you know, I should say I'm feeling good. You know, because okay is not an emotion, right? And
right.
And I'm feeling pretty good, but during this time, I've definitely seen a lot of fear and anxiety and a lot of things rising up. You know what I mean? But so I was like, you know, we got to call Mike Davis back. But before we get into that, Mike, how have you been?
Yeah, how have you been doing with this?
You know what's funny? I've been good, but I have been extremely busy. Surprisingly enough, on two fronts, because you guys know that, you know, along with doing the things with the church and pastoring, we also, my wife and I have our own business, you know, Karen, and we do online virtual trainings. So I work a lot with leaders online, and the matter of fact, the majority of what we do is online. And so when this all happened, we thought we might get a slight uptick in business because you got more people going online. And actually, it's been crazy. We have been training. I've been training straight for the past 9 weeks. I think tomorrow I'm going into week 10.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And there's one week I was doing like 3 trainings a day. Wow. So we've actually got more busy. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, I was telling you.
And I've been.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I've also been getting, which goes to our topic today, I've been getting a lot more coaching calls for helping people to deal with stress and anxiety.
Okay. Which is perfect. You know, that's why we wanted to have you on here. And, you know, if people listen to the last episode, I mean, I say this in a way where I thank you, God, I'm blessed because I finally revealed to everyone, Mike, in episode 47 that, oh, well, I almost said my own name. Wow.
Dang, dude. Why don't you just give your address right now, dude?
I know, right?
Come on. Tell them exactly where you live.
Just tell them where the Bat Cave is at.
Right.
Revealing all the secrets.
But hey, I got to ask you guys a question because you talked about sending out the bat signal. Did you see my Facebook post that I did about the mask?
Oh, yeah, for your birthday?
I saw.
Yeah, man, of course.
I saw that.
Had the whole mask and everything, man. I was like,
it looks good.
And then...
And so, in case the listeners don't know what I'm talking about, I put on a Batman mask and I said, in my best Batman gravelly voice, I was going to the store and I said, they said to wear a mask. They didn't say what kind.
Perfect.
The hero we thought we didn't need.
Yeah.
The hero we don't deserve for a time such as this.
Exactly. No, I was telling Omar here that, you know, I revealed on the last episode that I worked for Coca-Cola. You know, I finally set it on air, and for us, business has been booming. You know what I mean? People are staying home drinking all sorts of things, alcohol and everything. You know, so but they've been buying a lot of soda, a lot of water, especially when all the water stuff hit. When we distribute vitamin water, Powerade, Smart Water, Dasani, and so I mean you couldn't keep that on the shelf. As people were taking, I'm in charge of like managing the accounts and ordering the stuff that they need. As I was ordering it, as the merchandisers were bringing it out, it wouldn't even make it to the shelf. People were just ripping it off from the carts, you know. Before, it was a time of desperation, you know. It was a time of people were just in panic, you know. And of course, that being said, I did see a lot of, I did see some crime kind of rise up a little bit. I did see some like fights break out, you know, in the midst of stores because people are anxious in line and just going a little crazy. And so I was just like, wow, this is a crazy, crazy time. And I got to say, and I thank God for this. And I thank, you know, your training and the things that you've said on the show and the things that you've told us to research, because I've taken the time to look into this stuff, into the emotional intelligence stuff. And I haven't been like too emotionally affected by this, where it's in a negative way, where as soon as I feel it coming on, I'm kind of like, okay. Actually, the day that I told this to myself, I think you posted something exactly as what I was thinking, and you said something. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. This too shall pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that, and then I was like, oh yeah, exactly. You know, and it's something so simple, but tied with the things that you ask us to do. It really, honestly, just brought me a little bit more comfort in that moment. I did have moments too where I was like overwhelmed because there was so much work, and I was like, man, this is rough, man. And that's why I actually asked for a week off after 4 weeks of just mayhem, because I was like, all right, I need some time off because this has been a little bit insane, you know. But on the flip side, there's been people with a lot of time off, you know, and so you know, we just want you to kind of speak on this, and you know, you said your business has of course doubled, tripled because people have been getting these coaching lessons, and you know, what kind of advice or what kind of things are you hearing out there, and what kind of things are you giving to them?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think the biggest thing is that, you know, people are, number one, they're stressed, of course. The stress and the anxiety are the two biggest things that come up. And it's because, you know, for a variety of factors, people are concerned, am I going to get this? Am I going to live if I get this, you know, or am I going to die? They're concerned about their families. And then you've got people who are, they are getting together. Well, they're, you know, they're sheltering in, as we call it now, sheltering in at home. And they're not used to being at home 24/7 with their families. They're not used to being at home with the people that they're with. And because people have been asking us, well, how are you guys doing with the adjustment? And I told them, I said, we've actually been living like this for 20 years. So this is not an adjustment for us, because we work from home, and all my kids were homeschooled. So we were used to working from home. We were used to homeschooling. So we've gotten questions like, how do you deal with the homeschooling and everything? And we've tried to encourage people, even some of the clients that I work with who are leaders. We got into a conversation about it one time, because one guy was saying that, you know, he had his two little kids at home. He's trying to work, and he's like, it's just kind of crazy because both he and his wife work, and their kids were both at home. So it's like that trade-off. So it's like trying to figure out the schedule, figuring out the routine, but that's causing stress, you know, causing anxiety. Then I'm reading reports about domestic abuse is on the rise, divorce may be on the rise, all because of this sheltering in. So the impact of it is going beyond just the COVID-19 virus. That virus itself is having a rippling effect, you know, because as you guys know, it's affecting the economy, it's affecting, you know, people's jobs, their monies. So all of that is contributing to the stress and the anxiety that people are dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a study that came out recently saying that a lot of people's conditions, like if they had conditions with anxiety, if they had conditions with depression, and I mean, it has worsened, and I've heard reports in different states that people have actually taken their lives, you know, because they were like, you know what, I can't deal with this, and they weren't sick or nothing, they just, you know, lost their job, immediately lost all hope, and they were just like, I'm out, you know, and it's just been kind of crazy.
Yeah. And what are some practical things that you've been informing people about? What are some practical things that we can use, you know, because we all, you know, one more or another are feeling like this, are gonna feel like this, you know.
You know, it's funny, since I talked with you guys the last, I had created a class called it was for the Christian community, called Sanctified Emotions, Becoming an Emotionally Intelligent Christian. And we did a whole seminar workshop on that, and I think we had like 13 15 people in that class. And just before we started that class, I created an acronym that we utilize, and that I'm utilizing more and more to coach people and to teach them emotional intelligence or emotional success skills. We call it ADEPT, ADEPT, ADEPT. It's the ADEPT. So we call it the ADEPT model. And the word ADEPT means skillful. And so the idea behind this, when I came up with it, was these are the skills, or this is how you become skillful at dealing with your emotions. So each letter stands for a step within the model. So I'm gonna utilize that as a way of talking about what you can do during this time. So the first one is the A, and the A stands for two things. Number one is being aware. of what you're feeling. If you research anything about emotions and emotional intelligence, they will always tell you you need to be aware of how you're feeling. And so one of the things we need to have happen is, rather than just reacting to how we feel, take a moment and asking ourselves, what exactly am I feeling? Becoming aware of it and being able to specifically label what it is, how you are feeling. Because what the research has shown, and I think when we talked before, I talked about this, Dr. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA has found that when you are able to label how you feel, it lowers the intensity of the emotion that you're feeling, so you can better manage it. So being able to label, hey, am I scared? Am I stressed? Am I worried? Am I frustrated? What exactly is it that you are feeling? So being able to be aware of it, then we call it articulated, which is just labeling how you feel. And Dr. Dan Siegel once said, if you can name it, you can tame it. And one of the things about being able to label how you feel is that you have to stop and think about the emotion that you are experiencing. And to stop and think about it actually takes you outside of the emotion. So when you move to a position of awareness, because a lot of times we're just immersed in the emotion, and it's just guiding us, directing us, and we're reacting. But when you stop to go, what am I feeling? You have to go, as one of my old teachers said, you have to go meta to the emotion. You have to be able to step back from it and look at it. But that very act of asking that question and seeking to answer it, it puts you in a position where you're now above or outside the emotion, at least temporarily, so that you can have greater, you can be more effective in terms of controlling it and regulating it. So the first one is A, you just got to be aware, and then you want to articulate, you want to be able to name what it is that you're feeling specifically. So that's one of the first things right there. The second letter is D, which is detach. And this is something, there's one more with the A. There's one more. And that's being able to accept what you feel. And this is something I've been doing a lot with a lot of my clients, is having them to just embrace, accept how they're feeling, and even appreciate how they're feeling. Because we tend not to do that, because when we feel things like anxiety and fear, number one, they are what I call the unpleasant emotions. People tend to call them the negative emotions. I like to call them the unpleasant emotions, but they feel negative to us. And so what's the reaction when you experience something that's negative? You want to get away from it. That's the normal quick thing that you want to do. So what I've been, one of the things that's difficult for people is that they start to be afraid of their fear. They start to get anxious about their anxiety. And if you do that, that makes it worse. So what I've been coaching people to do is just move to a place of awareness and learning to accept and appreciate. This is all the A's, learning to accept and appreciate what they're feeling. And so I tell them, say, listen, it's just a signal. And it's a signal that you need to do something for yourself that contributes to your well-being or the well-being of those that you love. So you want to appreciate it as a signal. And I even like to liken it to, and I've been utilizing this metaphor for a while now. I said, if you're driving down the street, how do you know when you need gas? And most people say, well, I can see the E, the on my dashboard, the little arrow is moving towards the E. Or like in my car, what happens is there's a little gas pump that lights up, and I start to hear ding, 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 ding. And that lets me know I'm running out of gas, right? Now, we could say that's a negative symbol or a signal. It's a negative signal, but it's telling me to do something that's positive. It's telling me to do something that's for my own interest and my own well-being. Yeah. And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to ignore the signal. Because could you imagine if I go, oh man, I just hate it when this is so negative. It's telling me I'm running out of gas. So I'm going to disconnect that ding, 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 and I'm going to put a piece of tape so I can't see that little gas pump, and I can go on happily down the road. Well, you're going to be driving by, you're going to see me sitting on the side of the road with an empty tank of gas in my car. Yeah. Because you don't want to ignore the signal. You don't want to suppress the signal. You want to accept it for what it is. It's just a signal letting me know that I need to take appropriate action. I need to do something that's good for me. In that instance, I need to go get gas. So I like to tell people, when you are experiencing fear or anxiety or any unpleasant emotion, one of the first ways you can look upon that signal is that it's letting you know you need to do something positive. You need to take appropriate positive action for your own well-being and or the well-being of other people's. So utilize it, make it work for you. This is when I say you want to make use the negative in a positive way. Use the negative in a positive way. So we don't resist it, we don't deny it, we don't suppress it. We accept it, we appreciate it for what it is. It's a signal, and it's letting me know I need to take the appropriate positive action for my own well-being or for the well-being of people that I care about. So that's one of the first things you want to do.
So do you think, like, pretty much, I mean, what you're saying is a lot of people, instead of dealing with whatever it is causing that fear, they just want to avoid feeling the fear at all, and that just makes it worse because they haven't really taken any steps to step out of that fear, correct?
Yeah. One of the guys who taught me years ago, Dr. Bob Bonhammer, he said that we are only as healthy or as sick as our relationship to our emotions. So if we have a bad relationship with our emotions to where we fear them, we don't like them, we hate to feel certain ways, and we get to therefore that leads us into denial, repression, suppression consistently. That's not healthy. Mm-hmm. That's not healthy to do that. And even though I teach people, we're going to be talking about this, getting into a more positive, resourceful state, I have always said consistently, all of your emotions are important. All of your emotions serve a purpose. And so it's finding out what that is. And it's even like with fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety lets us know that there's something about which we are concerned where the future is concerned. Worry is always future oriented. It's always future oriented. Now, here's the thing that people tend to forget. And I've been saying this a lot, going back over this with my clients. In order to be worried about the future, you have to be safe in the present.
Yeah, that's true.
In order to be,
yeah, that's true. I remember that one.
Yeah. If we're worried about what's going to happen, and it's not to deny that there's not some serious things we need to think about, but it's in order for me to worry about what's going to happen in the future, I have to be safe. I have to be okay. My present moment has to be a moment of safety, or else I can't think about the future or the past. When I'm ruminating about the past, that's usually how I get into depression, or even it can create some anxiety. But if I'm worrying anxiety, whether it's I'm ruminating and thinking about things of the past, or for most of us now, we're worried about the future, we're thinking about the future, you have to be safe in the present. So like I've often said, if there's a big snarling dog in front of you that was just huge and just dripping at the mouth with foam, and it's like it's getting ready to bite you, you wouldn't be thinking about the future. Like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Because your safety in the moment would be in jeopardy. So you wouldn't have time. Yeah. So in order to worry, anybody who's listening to this, if they're worried or anxious about the future, that means that right now in the present, you're safe, which means if you bring your attention, if you bring your focus back to the present moment, you can find much more peace. You can find much more calm in the present, which is where you want to go to. Now, that doesn't mean, because you said, well, but I'm uncertain about the future. You can deal with the future, meaning making plans from a much better state of calm and other emotions than you can from worry and anxiety.
Yeah, so that's what I've noticed too there, Mike. A lot from my particular perspective is that I started feeling like that too in the beginning because I'm going to school full time and it all got canceled on me. And I was already on a track plan, man. I was just like busting through these classes. I was like, finishing one after another. And I was supposed to be finished within a year after this whole thing started. Can already graduate, get my degree. And then all of a sudden I was just like, whoa, it all got canceled. Classes got canceled. All my the science classes got canceled.
Pretty much your career was put on hold, right? And you needed,
Yeah, and then not just the career, but then it's kind of like, all right, well then, my family depends on me for money, because from the VA and all this stuff, and then so I'm just like, oh man. So then like one thing compounded on the other, and then my wife's school got canceled too because we're both going to school full time, and it's just like one thing on top of the other, and it was really like we had this. Me and my wife had this day where we were just like, it all just came on us because everything got canceled, and then I went over these exact same things that you said. It's just I told her, hey, look, we're okay in this moment, and I felt really anxious too, but then I just had to keep going through that over. It's just like, okay, I'm safe right now in the moment. I can't control the future, but what I can do is control my present. And so I said, look, we're okay, we're healthy, we have food, we have we just started going over all the good things that are going on right now, and then that calmed us down, that helped us, and then it's like, all right, well, let's just keep on working through what we can, and so slowly but surely, this is like right in the beginning where everything just got shut down. But then after a while, classes started opening up back for my wife. Everything started working out for my school. And still, I'm still behind. There's still, because, uncontrollable issues. But for now, it's kind of like what you're saying. It's kind of like, all right, well, concentrate on the present, And that I just kept remembering that over and over. Like your voice was in my head. For real, man.
Which one? This one or his Batman one?
No, his Batman. He's like, everything's okay. You're gonna be okay, Omar.
You'll be fine. Trust me on this.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. If somebody's listening to this now, if you just take a moment, there's an exercise I do with people where I have them sit down and I have them breathe. And I have them become, and I'm not doing it right now, but I won't go through the whole thing, but I'll have them become aware of their body sitting in the chair. And I'll just have them be aware of their neck, being aware of their breathing in and out naturally, being aware of sitting in the chair, feel the chair that you're sitting on. And all of that is to bring their awareness to the present moment. And then I'll say, look around you, look at the room that you're in, look at the wall, notice the light on the wall, the shadows on the wall. What's the color? Look at the objects in the room. And all of that is for the purpose of bringing their focus, their awareness, their attention to the present moment. And I said, notice that in the present moment, you're okay. You're fine. You're safe. And people tell me, they go, oh yeah, I feel so much better now. And it's because we forget in the present moment, we are okay. We are okay. And that's a good place to start and operate and begin to look at, okay, so what do I want to do going forward? So the first thing is you do want to be aware of how you feel, and being able to say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling this, appreciate and accept what you're feeling as signals that let you know that there's appropriate action that I need to take, positive action. And really just in the present moment, just being accepting what's going on, but then bringing your focus and your attention back to the present moment. So that's the A. Mm-hmm. The D is, the second part of that is detach. And what we mean by that is that sometimes what you may need to do after you have become aware of how you feel, you may need to step out of that emotional state. So you want to have a way of being able to detach from it. Also psychologically, this is known as you dissociate from it, which simply means you're able to step out of an emotional state that doesn't serve you in the moment. And you step out of it. So one of the ways that we have people do this, a really simple way, is I'll have people breathe in. I said, take a nice deep breath. I said, touch your chest. So they'll breathe in. And I said, just touch your chest with one of your hands. And I said to them, now just say to yourself, this is me. This is me. And they go, okay, this is me. And they're feeling themselves that what you feel, what you experience of your body, this is you. And I said, I want you to exhale. And as you exhale, I want you to imagine that you're exhaling out the emotion that you're feeling, whether it's stress, whether it's fear, whether it's anxiety. Imagine that you are exhaling all of the negative feeling that you're having in the moment, that unpleasant feeling. And as you exhale, what color does it become? And usually people say things like gray or black. Say, okay, take another deep breath. Let all that gray anxiety, that gray worry, I want you to inhale. Notice, touch your chest, say, this is me. Now exhale, and they exhale. And then I said, now blow out all of that fear, that anxiety. And they exhale it all out. And then I said, now I want you to push it away from yourself. I want you to go, this is not me. So I have them touch their chest again. This is me. Now push away that cloud. Go, this is not me. And they go, that's not me. I have them do that several times. And it's a way of helping them to dissociate, to detach from the negative feelings and emotions. Because sometimes they are pretty strong and you want to be able to step out of it, because that helps you, again, to think more clearly about the next steps that you want to take. So it's one technique that we offer to say, this is how you detach from feelings and emotions that keep you from moving forward, thinking clearly. Just breathe in and then exhale the emotion. And then what color does it become as you exhale it? Push it away from yourself. Go, this is not me. And I have them do that several times. And one of the reasons this works is, number one, what you're doing is you're breathing in. Until take a nice deep breath and then exhale slowly so you breathe in through your nose, exhale slowly through your mouth, And so they're breathing. One of the things when people get stressed, when they get anxious, when they get afraid, is that we stop breathing. Or, well, I shouldn't say we stop breathing. We keep breathing. You stop breathing, it's going to be a real problem. But you're still breathing. But what happens is they start to breathe up high in the chest. They don't breathe deep. They start to breathe shallow. That will compound the worry and the anxiety, especially if you're feeling anxiety. If you start to shallow breathe when you're having anxiety, it will cause you to feel even more anxious. So the anxiety feelings will cause shallow breathing. The shallow breathing will cause you to feel more anxious, which will cause you to shallow breathe even more. So it kind of feeds on itself. And I was working with a young guy one day, and we were working on him overcoming anxiety attacks. And right in my office, he started having an anxiety attack. And he's like, Mike, and I looked at him, and I just said to him, I said, look at me. And he looked at me, and I said, breathe. And he started to breathe. I said, breathe in. I said, breathe it out. And he did. And within a matter of minutes, boom, he was over. He looked at me and said, that is the quickest I have ever gotten over an anxiety attack. And it's because the simple thing that I had him to do in that moment, there are a couple other things, but I had him breathe. Because again, when people go into anxiety, they start to shallow breathe. So when I have them touch their chest, say, breathe into your diaphragm, breathe out, and then breathe out that fear, that anxiety, what color? So it helps them to visualize it. Then I say, now push it away. It also gives a sense of empowerment that I'm not a victim of this. That this is not one of the things you want for all those that are listening. You want to remember emotions are not something that just happen to you. Emotions are something that you do. And that's something I've been going back and telling people. Emotions are something that you do. In other words, your emotions are a result of how you are using your mind, how you're thinking, what you're focusing on, what you're saying to yourself, how you move your body. All of these things create your emotional state, whether it's confidence or fear and anxiety. So emotions are something that you do, not just something you feel, not just something that happens to you.
That's something that sounds like what the Greeks used to believe about the gods, that we were just playthings of the gods, and that these emotions would come to us because they were given to us, like lust and greed and jealousy. And I think a lot of people to this day still have that. We're just playthings of these emotions.
Yeah.
And it takes away all the responsibility.
Exactly. And
it's like, it's like people say, like, how people like maybe cheat on their wife, because of lust or all these things, and they're just like, I couldn't help it. And it's like, what? Yeah, okay, I see where this is going. Yeah,
it's because of that spirit of lust you got in you, bro.
Yeah. I had a guy come to me one time, and he had been told that he had a spirit. He's like, he had some problems in his life. He said, they told me I got a spirit. That's why I've got these problems, because I've got a spirit. I looked at him, I said, you don't have a spirit. He goes, I don't? I go, no. He said, what's wrong with me? I said, you're walking in the flesh. You need to walk in the spirit. He was like,
man.
But he had been told for years. He actually looked at me with a face of relief, because it's like, I don't have a spirit? That's what he had been told all this time. Yeah. And like you just said, if you have a spirit, then you're not responsible and you're not in control. And then it's something outside of you, and it can breed learned helplessness. And this is one of the reasons I'm so passionate in teaching people about how to exercise more emotional choice and control. Because if you don't, especially during this time, you can get into a mindset of learned helplessness, where you just feel helpless, and you think that your emotions are being caused by what's happening outside of you. And I know that things around us can look bleak. You look at, we don't know when this is going to end. But one of the things we always want to remember and hold to is that our emotions are not caused by what's going on outside of us. They are caused by what is happening within us. It is what we are doing mentally, emotionally, behaviorally. All of those things affect our emotional states. But those are the things we have control over. So I always tell people we call it the 100% solution. It's really, for me, the 100% solution is 99.9% the answer to almost every problem that we are going through in relationships and our personal lives, is that when you start taking full responsibility for what you're thinking, for what you're feeling, what you're saying and you're doing, a lot of problems get eliminated. A majority of problems get eliminated. So during this time and season, I've been coaching people to, in one-on-one sessions, and even some of the groups I've been leading, hey, let's take hold of these four abilities that we have: the ability to think, the ability to feel, the ability to speak, the ability to act. Take charge of those and begin to direct them in a way that serves you rather than in a way that works against you.
Yeah, it reminds me of a book that I read. I don't know if you've ever read the book by Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL, ex-Navy SEAL. It's called Extreme Ownership.
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah, I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, it's a really good book. I like it because it actually says there's a segment in there that says exactly this, and it might upset some people because a lot of people, especially when they feel emotions like someone, you were cheated on, your husband cheated on you. Like how is that? How are you not a victim? Right? Because immediately we kind of go into a victim state, but staying in that victim state really does not fix your heart and mind at all,
Right.
And we're not saying that whatever happened to you is your fault or nothing like that. What we're saying is that now that happened to you, it is still your responsibility to change how you feel about it, how you approach that, how the healing process, and he's using that example, Jocko Willink, in this because, he's talking about when he was going out there, when he was in Ramadi, and he was in, over there in the Middle East doing, in Navy SEAL ops. A lot of the complaints from his guys were like, hey man, this is, they found themselves in these extreme situations and it wasn't their fault, but they had to fix the problem, and so they were like, so, you can complain about it right now and you're going to die, literally, or you can get your head straight, get your emotions straight, and think about what the solution is, the steps we have to take in order to survive this, because really that's what it comes down to. You have to take ownership of whatever it is you're feeling, despite whether what happened to you or was your fault or not,
Right.
And it's just that it comes down to that. And sometimes I feel like people might get offended, you're dismissing the fact that this happened to me, and that isn't the case. We're not doing that.
Yeah, my wife, because I always tell people when I teach this and each of the steps of the ADEPT model is all about empowering the person. And we tell people, say, if you take full responsibility, you are going to live life in an amazing way that you had not lived before. But my wife said, she said, when you first hear about the 100% solution, she said, for some people it's empowering. She said, but then for some people it's really damning or condemning, because it's like, wait a minute, I'm the one responsible for this, And for me, it's always been empowering. But I do sometimes come across people who are like, wait, I'm in charge. I'm like, yeah. I said, but that's for your empowerment, because that way you're not limited to. And one of my favorite passages to teach on this from in the Bible is 1 Samuel chapter 30. And that's is when David and his men, it was about David. His men had been out. This is when he was on the run from Saul. They lived in this village called Ziklag. And David and his men had been out with the Philistines. They came back home. And the Amalekites had come before they got there, had burned the village down to the ground, had taken all the men, all the women, all the children, and ran off. David and his men come back. The Bible says when they saw the burned down village, you can imagine, you're coming home, you see the smoke rising from your village, and you get there and everything is gone. Your women, your wives, your children, everything is burned to the ground. Everything's been ransacked, taken. The Bible says that all the men begin to weep. That's a natural reaction. So it goes to what you were saying earlier, that, hey, there are times people do things to us. We are not responsible for that. We're not responsible for what others do to us. So the men began to cry. That was an appropriate response because they were shocked. They were in shock. But then it says that they got bitter, and the men spoke of killing David. They spoke of killing David. Yeah, really. Say what? And the Bible says that David was afraid, which I always say, if my men spoke of killing me, I'd be afraid too. But they spoke of killing David. It says he was afraid. So here it is. They're in the midst of this burned down village. David's men are crying, but then they get bitter. Now they talk about killing David. All of David's men are turning against him. And the Bible says in 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 6, but David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. And that is significant. And that is what leaders do. And people go, well, I'm not a leader. I go like, no, you're the leader of your own life. Oh. And so what we have to do is You've got to, it says David encouraged himself in the Lord, which means David took responsibility. David, and by the way, it does not say, and the Lord came and encouraged David. That's not what it says. It says David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. And so David moved from a state of fear, a state of grief, to a state of encouragement, a state of strength. That word encourage could also mean, or could be translated as he strengthened himself in the Lord his God. I like to say, basically, he moved to a more resourceful mental and emotional state of being. And he did that in the midst of a devastating situation, in the midst of his men talking about killing him. He encouraged himself. That shows us right there, your emotional state, your emotional well-being is not dependent upon or limited to your external situations and circumstances. In the heart of people talking about killing him, the heart of in the midst of circumstances that look devastating, David encouraged himself. And then it says he sought the Lord, he heard a word from God, and then he led his men to recover everything that had been taken from them and more. If you go and read the rest of the story. Now, here's the thing that's so important. David, well, all of it's important, but the other important aspect of this is that had David's men killed him, they would have not recovered what they had lost. They actually would have lost everything that they were longing for had they killed David. And they would have killed David out of an unresourceful state of mind and emotion. So if they had allowed the grief, if they had allowed the fear, if they had allowed the distress, if they had allowed that to overtake them to where they killed David, they wouldn't have gotten anything back. But they were able to recover everything because of moving to a different emotional state. David did. He moved to a different emotional state. And then out of that emotional state, he said, bring the ephod to me so that I can hear from God. So one of the most important things when you're going through a difficult time is, like I said, be aware of how you're feeling, detach from it, separate yourself from it, get some distance from it so you can make a better decision. The E in adept is exercise your emotional choice. And that's what David did. When he encouraged himself in the Lord his God, he exercised the emotional choice. And somebody might say, well, Mike, how do I do that? There's a couple of ways. You can move your body. The way you move your body can help you to do that. I've done this with people where people say, well, I'm afraid. I said, stand up. And I said, they go, what? Stand up. So as a matter of fact, the guy that I was telling you about who was having the anxiety attack, one of the other things I did with him is that I had him stand differently. I had him move differently. I said, I want you to stand like you're Superman. He was like, what? I said, stand like you're Superman. And I said, put your hands on your chest. I said, look up, puff your chest up. And I want you to say out loud to yourself, I can handle this. And he says, I can handle this. I said, no, I can handle this. He says, I can handle this. And I said, I want you to breathe. So I had him breathing, moving in a different way, and that changed his emotional state. And research has been done on this. There's a researcher by the name of Amy Cuddy, who she's a sociologist, and she studied what she called power poses. Now, this has been going on for years, but she actually did research on it, and they found that when people move in different postures, they move their body, just their body, in different postures, it can significantly change their emotional state. I've been doing it for years, and the postures that she was having people do is what we call the superhero posture. She would call it the Wonder Woman pose, where you put your hand. You know how Wonder Woman is standing with her hands on her hips. Mm-hmm. We see Superman doing that. In my classes, I've been doing that for years. So I was like, when I first saw her research, I thought, oh, it's nice to have the research that backs this up now. That this actually does work. Her research was attacked at one point. They said, "Oh no, this is not true." But she went back and did the experiments because they were saying we can't replicate your results. And she went back and did it, and now it's proven yes, this does work. But by changing your physiology, which is changing how you're moving, how you're breathing, and what you're saying to yourself internally, and it's how you say it. So, like if you go inside and go, I'm confident, you're not going to feel very confident. But if you move your body, like I have people stand like Superman, I'll have them lift their chin up, have that super heroic pose, or Captain America, and then I'll say, I want you to say, I can handle this situation. And if they go, I can handle this situation, I go, no, that's not going to do it. You gotta say it more heroically. And I'll lower my voice on purpose. I can handle this situation. They go, I can handle this situation. I go, yes, say it again. And I'll even have them laugh heroically. I'll say, think about your problem. I want you to laugh like this. Ha ha ha. They go, I go, no. Ha ha ha. And by doing all of that, I've done this with executives in corporations. And and just to give you a background, I'll have them think about a problem that they have, and we'll put them into a posture of depression. I said, now think about your problem. And they think about a problem. I go, how do you feel? They go like, this is not solvable. I can't overcome this. This will always be this way. And they go, ooh, this is not good. I say, okay. Then we have them move to a superhero stance. I have the women stand like Wonder Woman. I have the men stand like Superman or Captain America. And it's a stance where you put your legs apart, you stand up, you raise your chest, you breathe in into your diaphragm, you lift your chin up, and you look up at the ceiling. And I have them laugh with a heroic laugh, like this is no problem. I said, now, as you're in this posture, think about your problem. And they do. And I said, I want you to laugh. And they laugh. I go, now, what is the problem seen? And I can tell you, it's amazing. They go like, oh, I can solve this. I can handle this. I can deal with this. Simply, the problem hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is their emotional state.
Oh, yeah.
And when you change how you feel, it's going to change how you deal with something.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why it's important to know how to exercise emotional choice. So one of the ways you can do it is by changing your physiology. The another way is by, and this is what I have people do a lot too, and that's utilizing their memory. So I'll have people, I coached someone just the other day. I said, if you're feeling stressed, take a joy shot throughout your day. And they said, what's that? And I got that from a lady by Laurel Mellon. She wrote a book called Wired for Joy. She talks about taking a joy shot throughout your day. And what you can simply do is, if you're feeling stressed, take a moment, like 5 or 10 minutes throughout your day, or if you're feeling anxious, and focus on what brings you joy. And it can be something presently in your life, something from your past, but what is it that brings you joy? And take a few moments to focus on that, to think about that. And what's important is you just don't think about it. You feel the joy. Or if you take a few moments and appreciate and experience gratitude. Years ago, I read this book where the guy was saying, it's called What Happy People Know. And he said, you cannot feel worry, and I would put in there anxiety, and gratitude and appreciation at the same time. It's physiologically impossible. You can feel one or the other, but not both at the same time. So when you're in a state of appreciation, you're in a state of gratitude, you're not going to be in a state of worry and anxiety. And what's cool is the research tells us that positive emotions like joy, gratitude, appreciation, even love and compassion, they have an undoing effect on the negative emotions that we experience. So when people are experiencing worry and anxiety, especially if it's chronic, that's taking a toll on their mind, their bodies, their immune systems. But the research has shown if you go into a state of joy, of peace, of love, of happiness, it will undo the effects of the negative emotions, both mentally and physiologically. So if somebody's listening to this and they go like, yeah, I'm experiencing a lot of stress, take specific times throughout your day. Give yourself 5 to 10 minutes where you focus on what's good. You focus on what's positive. You focus on what you enjoy. You focus on positive memories from your past. I do that. Or you can focus on things that you're looking for and that are good where your future are concerned. The idea is to exercise that emotional choice and get yourself into a positive emotional state.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good stuff, man.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
And then there's what? P and T?
Yeah, P&T. The P is you want to practice, we call it practice a new path or practice a new pattern. Mm-hmm. And everything that you say and do and feel, it has a corresponding neurological pattern in your brain. And it's also a psychological pattern. In other words, it becomes a habit.
Right.
Habits are ingrained in the brain as neural pathways. You want to create a new pathway. How do you do that? Simplest way, and I'm giving you the short version here, but the simplest way is to rehearse what you want to do differently from now on. How do you want to think and feel differently in certain situations? Rehearse it. Olympic athletes, elite athletes, they utilize mental and emotional rehearsal all the time. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of, there's an Olympic athlete by the name of Mary Lou Retton. She won the 1984 gold in gymnastics.
No.
And I'm not sure when you guys were born. I was saying
that was a year before I was born.
May not be when you were born, which tells you
I
how
was
old
born.
I am. But it was 1984. I remember watching this, and Mary Lou Retton, she did the pole vault, and where they they have a horse and they run and they jump and they hit it and they flip and then they land on the ground, and she got a perfect 10 which is what she needed in order to win the event. I mean, she stuck the landing. Matter of fact, I just watched it the other day, and she stuck the landing. She didn't hop. She didn't everything. She just, when she landed, boom, it was solid. And they gave her she got a perfect score of 10. But what she said, I read her book, and what she said was, not only did she practice that in her actual practice, she would mentally rehearse sticking that landing, as what they call it. Mm. She would rehearse it over and over and over again, so that when she actually got to the event, she performed the way she had mentally rehearsed. So athletes know this. They know that part of it is the physical training, but the other part of it is the mental training. You know, Jack Nicklaus, who's one of the most celebrated golfers, one of the most successful golfers of all time, they asked him, they said, how are you able to make these amazing shots? He said, before I make a shot, I mentally see it going where I want it to go in my head. Mm-hmm. So mental rehearsal. There was a study that was done where they took, this has been done in different ways, but they took some basketball players, they divided them into 3 groups, and they wanted them to practice and improve, or they wanted them to improve in their free throw shooting. So they took one group and they said, we want you to practice shooting free throws for about an hour a day. They took another group and they said, we don't want you to practice at all. They took a third group and they said, we want you to mentally rehearse shooting free throws. We don't want you to actually shoot them. We just want you to mentally rehearse in your mind shooting free throws. So they took these 3 groups, have them practice, I don't know if it was a week or 2 weeks. They came back and they measured their effectiveness. They had them actually go out and then shoot baskets. They had measured them before. Now they were measuring them after. This is what they found out. The group who had actually actually practiced and was shooting free throws, they increased their accuracy by 23%. The group who did not practice at all, there was no improvement. The group who only mentally rehearsed increased their accuracy, or the number of shots they made, by 22%.
Oh, wow.
And I could get into the neuroscience. The idea behind it is your brain really doesn't know the difference between something that you actually are doing and something that you're mentally rehearsing. And so your brain and your body responds as if you're actually doing it. This is the way we're made.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so right. It's still creating that sense of muscle memory, you know?
Exactly. You're creating a new pattern. So you can create a new response. You can create a new reaction to the things that are going on in your life. So if you go into certain situations and you find yourself, responding in ways you don't like, you find yourself responding from anxiety, you find yourself responding with fear, you can rehearse a new response. You can create a new pattern. You just simply have to rehearse it. Access the feeling that you want to feel. You can use your memory to do that. I've done this with people. Can I give you guys a quick story?
Sure.
Yeah.
Years ago, I was working on a book, and I had wanted to get this book published. I was at a booksellers convention where we had access to acquisition editors. These are the people who look at your manuscripts and they decide whether or not, hey, this might be a great book idea for our company to publish. So I was going to talk to acquisition editors over a 2-day period about this book idea that I had. Actually, I had 2 book ideas. And I was first day, I'm going up to the very first acquisition editor. And as I'm walking over to the acquisition editor, I get hit with fear. Like, what if she says no? What if she turns you down? What if she tells you the idea is no good? And I literally spun on my heels and walked the other way. Now, the reason this was a problem because my book was about how to manage your emotions. And so, true story. So I remember saying to myself, wait, this is not good. My book is about managing your emotions. I'm afraid to go talk to this acquisition editor. So I did one of the techniques that was in the book. I sat on this bench and I began to rehearse how I wanted to approach her. What do I want to say? How I wanted to feel when I walked up to her. So I thought, what's the best emotion that will support me? I thought confidence. I want to feel confident. So I said to myself, where do I naturally feel confident? This is about accessing your emotions. And I said, when I'm standing before people and speaking, I feel completely confident. I have no fear. So I thought about a time I spoke to a church that had 5,000 members. And I got up there and I was speaking and I felt that confidence. I felt, like, yeah, I can do this. I was so excited about sharing information I knew would make a difference. And as I felt that confidence, I imagined myself feeling confident, walking over to that acquisition editor saying, good morning, my name is Mike Davis, and I'd like to talk to you about a book idea that I have. And so I rehearsed that over and over for about 15 minutes. I just would feel the confidence. And then I imagined as I felt the confidence walking over to that acquisition editor, walking into that situation, feeling confident. And I rehearsed it over and over. After about 15 minutes, I got up, I walked over to her, and I said, "Good morning, my name is Mike Davis. I'd like to talk to you about a book I did that I have." And I went on from there. So I was able to rehearse. I say it like this: I practiced in private the way I wanted to perform in public. So, and this is what we do in sports. You know, if you play sports, I used to play basketball. We didn't just go out there and play against another team. We always had practice first. We would run drills. If you are in martial arts, you know, and Chuck, I know you practice martial arts, right?
Yeah. I was going to mention I do this quite a bit. I really
exactly.
You know, especially now getting closer to black belt, like you really. Like me, for example, I practice quite a bit. I'll do a kata that I know I'm going to do in a tournament or something, you know?
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where up until the moment, I mean, my heart is beating fast, hard, you know, like I'm like, oh my gosh, this is intense. There's people there. I'm always afraid of ridicule as well. It's kind of in the back of my head as always, you know, but I'm like, okay, let's do this. This is what I'm here for, you know? And when I start doing my first move, there's these moves that you do where you basically breathe in and then you set up your body and then you present the name of whatever kata you're doing. And when I do that, every time I remember doing it with fear, like starting that with fear, and in the middle of the kata I would forget, like, you know, because the fear just takes over. But there were times where I feel literally like I would take the deep breath, and it goes kind of with what you're saying earlier with the physiology, and then I would just like stiffen my whole body and just feel like my body flex, you know, and then say that, you know, name of that kata with confidence, and I just go into the zone. Like I almost don't remember, like it's just I just do, you know, and then when I'm done, those every single time that I've done that, it's just been my highest scores I've ever gotten in martial arts, like as far as presenting the kata, and it's just it really does make the difference. But I gotta say, I'm not always successful at doing it, but when I do it, it's incredibly successful for sure.
And so that's the thing. If people practice something, you can mentally rehearse. And what I have people do is not just rehearse their behaviors, but emotionally, what do you want to feel while you're doing those behaviors? What's the emotion? Because a lot of times people will leave out the emotion. They'll practice the behavior, but not the emotion. And that's where we can get trapped up, because if you go in there with a certain type of emotion, whatever emotion you're going in with is going to affect your performance. So you want to make sure you have the emotional state that's going to support the performance or the behavior that you're engaged in. So when I'm working with clients, I'll say, what do you want to feel when you're in this situation? And they go, well, you know, I want to feel joy. Okay, well, let's think about a time when you felt joy. Okay, you feel that joy? Yeah. Now imagine going into that situation as you're feeling the joy and you're operating from this joy. And we just have them rehearse it over and over. I've done this with people to help them to get over fear of flying. I've done it with, I did this with a pilot, a guy who was trying to certify and to get his pilot license. And he kept getting afraid at different levels. He had to like fly at 2,000 feet. He had to certify. Then
what's his name? What airline does he work for?
I don't remember his name. But
Is he still flying?
Really. Like, wait, what's this guy's name?
I don't want to be on that airplane.
Yeah. But he was afraid. He told me, he said, I want to get my pilot's license, but I'm afraid. He was actually being certified for small aircraft. Okay. But what we did was I just had him. I asked him. I said, well, "What do you want to feel at each level?" And he would tell me, and it was the same as confidence. I said, "Okay." So we would rehearse being confident at 2,000 feet. He would go. Hey, Mike, I qualified. Now I got to do it for 4,000 feet. So then we would do it for 4,000 feet. He came back and said, "Okay, now I got to do it for 6,000." So we just kept going up, but he did it. He was able to certify it, and then he had no more fear. But we just rehearsed the way he wanted to be in the situation, not only the behavior, but also the emotion. And so that's really key to me, is that you rehearse emotionally. You can develop mental, emotional, and behavioral habits, and they get stored as neural pathways in your brain. You just simply have to rehearse it. And so if you want to be able to experience confidence where normally you experience anxiety, then access that confidence. So the idea is, think about, what do I want to experience? Decide that's what you're going to experience, you know, in terms of what do I want to think? What do I want to say? What do I want to think? What do I want to feel? What do I want to say and do? And I have people write it down. I said, write it down I said, okay. Then I walk them through. I said, okay, let's access that emotion. Let's say if it's joy, I want to, and I'm not feeling joyful. Okay. And that's the other thing too. If you can access the joy, let me finish the step, access the joy, and then imagine going into the situation with joy and doing what you want to do. So it's being intentional. That's what I'm trying to say here. And again, this is all about empowering the person that where they're not feeling like this is out of my hands. The other thing I was going to say with that is you want to make sure during this time period that you are experiencing positive feelings and emotions as much as possible. And that you do that intentionally. Do not wait to feel good. Choose to feel good on purpose. Now, I'm not saying that you can't ever feel bad. And there are times it's appropriate, if somebody, there are times I have, had compassion and empathy and felt bad with people who have lost loved ones. There's nothing wrong with, and there's even nothing wrong with, feeling bad in the moment or even feeling some fear and anxiety in the moment, as long as you have choice about being able to step out of it. Because remember, again, it's not about denying or repressing, it's being able to accept it. Like we got some news one day and I was starting to feel anxious about it. I didn't push it away. I said, okay, I accept this anxiety. I just accept it. I embrace it. And what do I need to do? And I immediately, here's the thing that's paradoxical about it. When you begin to accept how you feel, you tend to calm down. And it's really interesting. So rather than, because when I worked with somebody one time, I said, I just want you to accept it. They said, won't that make it worse? I said, it's kind of paradoxical. When you accept something, you tend to actually feel more calm. If you think about it for a second, have you ever been in a deep, profound state of peace? Mm-hmm. Where you just felt very peaceful? You ever notice when you're very peaceful, whatever happens, it doesn't bother you. You just accept it. You just accept what is. That's one of the core essence of peace, is that it's acceptance. So when you're at peace, you're just kind of like, oh, it's okay. Yeah, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. We're very accepting. So
I noticed that when I feel joy,
Yeah.
Because things will come along that normally would just set me off. I'm like, that's cool, man. It's going to be all right.
Yeah. Right. Because you're in a different mindset. We're not pushing against it. So when people bring acceptance to what they feel, they begin to get more calm. Mm-hmm. And they become more relaxed. It's usually when people are like stressed out and and it's because they're pushing against the fear, pushing against the anxiety because I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this because it's not pleasant to feel. But if you go, you know what, so how do you do that? You can temper that. It's like you bring acceptance and it tempers the distress and you begin to feel more calm. So it's one of the ways to begin to exercise more control. So like I said, that P is you practice a new pattern. You practice a new path that you want to go on. And the T is simply you test it. You test it and you tweak it, we call it. Mm-hmm. So you look at it, you go out, does it work for you? Are you feeling more calm? Are you feeling and are you responding the way that you want? If not, then you go back and you say, okay, what do I need to do differently? What do I need to add to it? There are times I've worked with a coaching client and we'll work on something. I say, okay, go out. Let's meet back next week and let me know how you did. And they might come back and go, well, I did okay here, but in this particular area, I didn't feel quite right, or I kind of lost the feeling. Okay, let's look at what we need to add. Let's look at what we need to do a little bit differently. What were you thinking? Do we need to change some beliefs that you had? We test it and we tweak it. And then we say, okay, now go back out again and come back and let me know. So that's the adept model. So it's the awareness, it's the acceptance, it's the appreciation, it's detaching from an emotional state that doesn't serve you well in the moment. It's exercising your emotional choice. It's practicing a new path, and then it's testing it and seeing how it works, and then tweaking it where you need to tweak it. And these are things that people can do as a way of helping them to get through. And I know we did it kind of a condensed, fast manner, but these are things I actually do with people to help them to get through this time and season. And it's what I do with myself.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy how much information there is in just adept. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
and I know you, like you said, you just condensed it down, but there's so much there, and I heard a lot of just good nuggets of information that I can use already that I'm thinking, just reminders of things that I haven't done that could definitely use. I don't know about you, Omar, but I definitely think so.
No, definitely. I mean, it's stuff that we've heard throughout the, various episodes we've done with Mike. things that we've heard, some things that we haven't, but it's always a really good thing to get reminders on them,
Yeah.
always to go back, and it's like, okay, remind myself, how do I do this, how do I do that, because you never I don't know, you forget, or sometimes just like the T, the T part, you just gotta always test it, gotta always tweak it, gotta always go back, always go back. But once you learn stuff, you just gotta keep putting them in practice, man. Love it.
Well, can I share something?
Yes.
Yeah.
The adept model, one of the reasons I put it together, because I thought, I got all this stuff. How do I put it in a format that'll really help people? And I sit down one day and I was just playing with it. And at first I call it adapt. And I went, I don't like adapt. They're like, okay. I said adept. I said, wait a minute, what does adept mean? I thought, it means skillful. And that's the idea. It's being skillful. But I utilize it. There are times if I'm feeling distressed, worried, anxious, and I'll try to change my state. I'm going like, man, why is it so hard to change? I go, and I'll take myself back through the steps. Literally, I'll go, are you aware of how you're feeling? Oh, what am I feeling? Are you embracing it? Are you accepting it? Are you fighting it? Did you detach from it first? I always teach detach first, then exercise emotional choice. Because if you try to exercise the emotional choice while you are feeling way stressed out or anxious, it can be very hard. It's not impossible. It's just very hard. But if you detach first, then go into a different emotional state that serves you, it works a lot easier. So even me, I teach this stuff and I take myself through the steps. It helps me to remember to go through. It's a sequential order to help you to exercise more emotional choice and control.
Yeah, definitely. For sure.
Anything else you want to add on, Omar?
No, man, no. Just I knew this was going to be a quick episode, but it's a good episode, And I'm just gladful for Mike to be on here and remind us, to continue using the skill set, because it's a skill set,
Right.
And if you don't use it, you lose it. And everybody just out there, just take these things to heart and just put them in practice a little bit at a time, and hopefully things change within your household. You'll be able to control the things that you can.
Indeed, yeah. It is a short episode. It's funny because I get both, listeners both complain for both things. Your episodes are too long, or your episodes are too short, and I'm just like, I can't please everybody, folks. I just can't. You know what I mean? So, but. Adapt, go back, listen to the show a couple times. There's a lot of good stuff. If you haven't listened to our other episodes with Mike Davis, we have Emotional Intelligence Part 1, we have Part 2, we have him talk about comic book heroes, which is a really good one, actually. And so, just go back and listen to those episodes so you have a better idea of what we're talking about now, because it explains a little bit in more detail of what we're talking about. But this is one of those times where this kind of information, I believe, is incredibly necessary, and will always be necessary, not just in pandemics, but also in our business. And I know it's helped me in my job. It's given me confidence in my job in martial arts. It's changed how I fathered. You know what I mean? So it's changed so many things, just because of my relationship with my emotions, as you said earlier, Mike. So, Mike, how can people reach out to you and find you if they need you?
One, they can find me
besides a bat signal.
Put up the back signal. That's one. I'm not saying I'm Batman. I'm just saying you've never seen the two of us in the room at the same time. But I think your listeners get by now that I love Batman. But they can. I'm on Facebook. I should have wrote down my Facebook. I don't remember what it is right now, but I think it's Mike Davis at FacebookCoach.com, something like that. But if they type in Mike Davis, right now there's a picture of me holding my granddaughter, my newest granddaughter. So
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, she's a little over a week old. Nice. So they can find me on there. They can also contact me at mldtraining@msn.com, mldtraining@msn.com. If they can contact me there. I'm also on Twitter at Emotional Success Coach. Mike Davis at Emotional Success Coach. That's my Twitter handle, which I'm learning to do more. Contact me because I'm going to be doing some things on Facebook. I had planned to do like a free seminar type workshop on Facebook. We just got extremely busy. I literally had no time. And I thought, oh man, I did one session live on Facebook. I thought people were like, where's the rest of the sessions? And we were literally working from 4 a.m. in the morning to 7 a.m. at night doing the trainings. Wow. So, so it's slowed down just a little bit. So I thought, okay, I need to get back on there and fulfill my promise. But I wanted to do something for people where they could learn some skills, some basic skills that could help them to deal with their emotions during this time. So yeah, definitely contact me so they can be a part of that if they want to be. And we're going to record it, and then we'll give people free access to it, because we want to do what we can do to support people during this time.
Great. That's amazing.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
All right, Mike. Well, stick with us, Mike. We are going to have people listen to some tunes real quick, and we're going to land this plane. We'll be right back, folks.